Overnight and through the morning, in fact not that long ago, it all came to a bit of a poor end. It's been a poor start, poor middle, and it's not got any better. England women going down by 72 runs to Australia women. They lost the 3-match ODI series 3-0. They've lost the 3-match T20 series 3-0, and now they head to Melbourne for what will still be a historic occasion, the Red Bull Test played at the MCG. But Australia women eyeing up 16-0, a clean sweep. All of this after England women travel to Australia with such hopes. In the last few days, there's been a lot of criticism, and there's been some allegations, I suppose, for want of a better word, about players boycotting interviews and a bit of a moodiness from the camp towards Alex Hartley, who works for Test Match Special and also TNT. We won't go into the ins and outs of that. There's no real need. But, I mean, we're bringing you first, Jarrod. Where did it all go wrong? I mean, it's not as though you have to go too far back in history to find, equal disappointment about an England women's performance, do you? The semi-final stages of the World Cup. And now here we find ourselves against Australia, who are a phenomenally good side. And England have disappointed. But if you were to put your finger on it, where would that finger be pointed?
They really haven't made enough runs to put pressure on Australia, and every time they've got wickets, they haven't found a way of pushing through the middle. I think the biggest issue might be as simple as this: they might have the best bowler in the world, Sophie Ecclestone, but she's not particularly good against Australia, and the Australians don't mind facing her, whereas everyone else in the world is just like, it's almost a wicket and over, right? They don't mind facing her, and I think they scored off her again today on a wicket that was helping spinners. And so usually she's the Bumrah of that side, right? You just anytime there's a problem, you bring on Sophie Ecclestone, and she just, like a tourniquet, just stops the issue. That doesn't happen against Australia, and you're seeing, and if you go back to that World Cup, and I know you talked about the Alex Hartley thing before, Alex Hartley talking about how the players are not fit and all this sort of stuff. They didn't lose that World Cup because the players weren't fit. They won the first 3 games, and in the 4th game, they scored a little bit under par, and their fast bowlers got absolutely smashed everywhere. And then by the time Ecclestone came on, the game was over, right? And so how many times do you have to wait for one player, and sometimes Sarah Glenn does this for them as well, they have to pull it back because England, they're not making enough runs to put pressure on with the bat, and with the ball, it's down to 1 or 2 players almost every game.
There was it was insinuated that one of the England players didn't want to speak to Alex Hartley prior to one of the matches. We don't know whether it's true or not, but one thing that I did come away from it feeling is that if every time a male cricketer decided not to speak to one of the press, there would be 100 pages extra cricket coverage every day, because it happens all the time.
Yes.
There is this thing called a bowling coach day. All 11 of the players have refused to speak to the press at the end of the day. So
if I listed all the players who have refused to do interviews,
we don't even want to speak to Jarrod.
We would be here for we wouldn't be able to play the game. All right, it would be 4 hours of me just saying names. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I don't think it should have got out. If you are a media person and you say opinions, you have to understand that the person that you're saying the opinions about are going to react that way. That doesn't mean Alex Hartley shouldn't say what she wants to say, but she has to then understand that the other person's going to do what they want to do. You can't have it both ways. And most people who do interviews on the ground usually are the people who don't have the strong opinions. There's a reason for that, John. You're the producer. You know why you don't send me out there to go and talk to Jason Roy, because you're not sure that Jason Roy's going to come over.
I'd love to send Jarrod out to speak to Jason Roy. You're a coach, you're a player, former. The insinuation was fitness wasn't there, so England lost the game. I haven't heard that said about England women in this tournament. But in terms of coaching, is there a link between fitness and catching? Because it seemed to me like there was a lot of teams dropping catches in the World Cup. It was more to do with the ground and the lights, and the fact that England women don't necessarily, or no women's cricketers don't necessarily play 50 over or 20 over cricket at that time of the night in the UAE. But from your perspective, is there a link?
Yeah, my perspective is, and good afternoon everyone, listen, is when I coach kids now or whatever, I do train them hard. I'm trying to make it realistic. I always remember Graham Gooch, great Graham Gooch, when I was at Essex and my time at England. He always, when you were batting, he wouldn't just have you in the net just batting, you had to run in between, because what he's trying to do, he's trying to get you to fatigue. because then he wants to know what your game plan is now. Are you just going to play a lazy shot, or are you going to be focused? It's the same Duncan Fletcher when we used to do fielding with England. He used to beast you because he does want that time where it's the 39th over and Gilchrist hits one. Are you tired, or are you going to be able to get there and take that catch, which might be a match-winning catch? So I always say, train hard, play easy. Always, you know, you have to train that way. You have to train really hard. And obviously, if you're dropping catches, it might be because the concentration's not quite there. And if the concentration's not quite there, are you working hard enough on your fitness? You know, I'm sure if it was early in the piece and it was the first 5 overs, I'm sure they'll be fine. But as the game goes on, you start to fatigue. You're playing in a very hot country. You're losing sweat and salt. Are you getting the replenishments on board? All those things come into a situation. You know, they have the amount of backroom staff now, which annoys the hell out of me. The amount, you know, you can go man for man now on the coaching staff at the professional level now. And I know things have changed, so I need to stop thinking about my time and the time now. But my whole thing is, and sort of harping back on, you know, Alex Hartley and stuff like that, it's like, listen, these girls now are playing at a very high level. You're now reaping the rewards on the back of it as well. And with that, when you get to the top, what happens? People are looking to take some names and they're looking to criticise. And you have to be very broad in the shoulders, and you're going to have to take it on jar. Otherwise, you've got to get off social media. And sometimes people are in their feelings. This is sport. People are allowed to have their opinion, but like Jarrod said, you have to be mindful what you say, because Alex Jordan used to say to me, and I remember when he wrote a book, I said, your book's boring, Stewie, like, you're not saying anything. He goes, I have to be mindful because I might have to see these people again. And the same when you're in the positions we're in, you have to be a little bit mindful because you're going to have to meet these people, but you have to be able to back up what you say. And that's the big thing for me.
Shall we also remember, as we move towards a break, Jarrod, that England women have and are coming up against arguably one of the greatest international sides of all time in any sport.
I think we thought Australia was on a slide because of what happened in that last World Cup. Based on the last couple of weeks, I'm not really seeing the slide, guys, if we're being honest. It's like,
the slide's been on the knees as they're taking a catch over their head and stopping it from going over the boundary.
They look like they're better now. So we've seen this before. Australia lose sometimes, and then they get better straight afterwards. They're very competitive.